Hey guys, Michelle from Michelle's Craft Corner here, and in today's video we're going to be making this gorgeous card using some copper embossing powder and using the new delightfully detailed laser cut designer series paper. So here's a close-up of that card we're going to be making today, and I really hope the camera does it justice because this copper emboss just looks absolutely gorgeous in person. It's really hard to get the reflection right in the camera, but it is just beautiful. So this was made with a couple brand new Stampin' Up! Products from our new catalog, so I'm very excited to show you. So first off, we're going to be using the brand new, delightfully detailed laser cut specialty paper, and this stuff is absolutely gorgeous. There's so much you can do with this. I've seen some awesome cards and projects by other demonstrators. So besides 2 sheets of these, which we're going to be using this one today, which of course, you know, has this giant beautiful 12 by 12. So besides 2 sheets of these, it also comes with several sheets, and I'll pull it out real quick, of this just gorgeous detailed 12 by 12 sheet. Pull it out so you guys can see. I mean, it is just gorgeous. So many options, and I just really love how embossing makes it pop. Okay, so besides that, we're also going to be using just a little bit of the copper foil sheets, just a little bit of a square of that. Where'd my... Oh. Alright, here's my card. Okay. Besides that, we're going to also be using just a square of the Whisper White cardstock. Our card base color today is the Mint Macaron, which is our returning Stampin' Up! Color that I just love. For our embossing, we're going to be using the Versamark pad and the copper embossing powder. I like to keep mine in a little container so it's easy to use. Alright. And then we're going to be using some more of our new markers from the new color revamp, which you may just want to go ahead and just get the whole set because they're awesome. And there's just so many gorgeous colors in this new color revamp. So do check out my other blog posts for that. But specifically in this video, we're going to be using these 3 colors. And that is, of course, the coordinating Mint Macaron marker, the lovely Highland Heather, this light purple, and then we're also going to be grabbing the So Saffron. If you don't have the So Saffron, you could also use the new Mango Melody from the new marker set as well, or any other shade of yellow for just the inside of the flowers. All right, so those are our markers. So for our sentiment, put that off to the side, I'm going to be using the new Rooted in Nature stamp set, and it's specifically this You Are Wonderful, and this is embossed in that copper as well. Thinking of You would also be pretty on this, or just pretty much any sentiment that you want, but this is a absolutely awesome stamp set shown here in clear, and it is also available in wood. And you can also bundle it because there are coordinating dies, yes, that cut out these adorable trees. So you can also bundle those together and save if you want to get both. But if you're not feeling this sentiment, you can do the same design with pretty much any Stampin' Up! Sentiment that you have on hand. Last thing we're going to be using to cut out our ovals, I used, oh, my post-it note is hidden here, the Layering Ovals Framelits, which is nice and covered. There you go. The Layering Ovals Framelits. And specifically the kind of 2 middler size, not quite the smallest, but like this one and this one. Okay. All right. I think that is everything. Oh, and I forgot something. So we're embossing. So we need our heat tool. This is the awesome heat tool. A lot of people are like, oh, embossing, can you use a hairdryer? Yes and no, depends on your hairdryer, and honestly I wouldn't recommend it because it gets really messy. Most of them, the settings are weird. This is made specifically for heat embossing and is really awesome and safe to use. You don't have to worry about getting that powder in your eye as much and different things like that. So definitely recommend the heat tool. And we're also going to be using the silicone craft sheet. If you don't have one of these in your basic Stampin' kit, you really should. These come in handy so much, especially once we start gluing, and you'll see why a little later. This is perfect for this new paper. All right, so now I've gone through everything. Hopefully I didn't overwhelm you. If you didn't catch any some of these product codes or numbers, they're all going to be listed in the detailed description of the video. So you can check those out down below. And then also stay tuned for the end of the video, as I do have a couple other examples with this wonderful paper stack. All right, so first off, you saw that beautiful paper. I went ahead and I cut it down. Just lay it on that so you can see it. So cut it down to a smaller size so it's a little bit more workable and definitely easier to use. All right. So, and then we're going to go ahead and grab our copper out, and we're just going to go ahead and knock this first part. Now, what I recommend, and you don't have to do it this way, but I have found anytime you can get 2 for 1 out of a project, it's definitely worth doing. So what I recommend is if you take your piece and lay it on just a whisper white, very vanilla square, or maybe a scrap of a color that you like. And then I'm just going to take a little piece of retired washi tape. Doesn't really matter what kind of washi tape because it's going to come off later. And this is just going to hold the two together. So you don't need a lot. And then we're going to go ahead and take our Versamark. Now with this, you're basically Versamarking both the laser piece and the piece underneath. So you're using the layered piece, the lasered piece, oh, excuse me, as a mask. And so with this, you can actually get 2 different patterns at the same time. And the washi tape is just going to help hold it in place as you apply that Versamark. You want to be nice and thick with it, because once you peel them apart, it is really hard, nearly impossible to layer it back together. So we're going to go just nice and thick on there. Trying to be sure we get it all over, just like that. Peel it up a little bit. Make sure I didn't miss any spots here. That looks pretty good. Oh, missed a corner. Okay. Right there. All right. So once we have it good and Versamarked, and at home you can kind of tilt it to the light and see if you have any shiny spots that you missed. I don't know how well that'll show up on the camera. Now this is just a little Ziploc brand box that I really prefer doing my embossing in because it gives me a tray to kind of dump over. If you don't have something like this, we do have like the retired Stampin' Up tray or various other things you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and peel these apart. Now you may be wondering, well, can I emboss them one on top of each other? Well, yes, I did try that. Problem is they do tend to stick really bad. So it's easier to heat emboss them separately, and then you're less likely to have them stick together when that powder melts. And because it's such a tiny, lacy, detailed effect, it really does tear easy. So trust me when I say it is better to heat emboss them separate. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle both of these and then heat emboss that and speed up the video. You'll see that when I get to it, the heat emboss, you can tell when it is thoroughly melted because it'll go from a grainy texture to a nice metallic texture. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. Alright, and there you can see we are done. We have our 2 pieces. I absolutely just love how this looks. It's a very different look, but you can do a lot with this extra sheet. We're not going to do anything with it in this particular video unless you guys really want me to do a video later, but I do have some samples at the end of the video, basically just using this piece. Now I do trim it down a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and put this aside, but this is something that you can easily do and not waste that extra Versamark that you're going to be using. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that off to the side. We're going to go ahead and grab our silicone mat and get ready for our next step right here. Now for this video I'm using the Whisper White cardstock just for underneath, but if you'd rather do very vanilla you could do that one as well. Both work the same, just like that. And depending on how you lay it, you can have a little bit of a white edge around it, or you can kind of trim it. Just for ease sake, we're going to go ahead and, oh, I missed a spot. Okay, other thing I wanted to mention, I almost forgot. So if you can see that right there, so where we put the washi tape to connect the 2 pieces, of course our Versamark did not hit it, and it did not pick up any embossing powder. So one other thing real quick for that spot, you do want to hit it again really quickly, just with the Versamark and a little bit of that embossing powder, and just any other areas that may not have gotten it all the way, and you can always just add that after. I don't recommend adding Versamark on it if you still have the dry embossed powder, because that can get kind of messy and get it on your Versamark pad. So let me go ahead and just add that really quick. Sorry, I forgot that section. Here we go. Much better. So now we have the solid edge around. You will have noticed in the video I used like a finger to hold it down. Depending on your angle and experience with the heat tool, you may prefer to do a bone folder instead to keep it from flying, but just for the sake of time I just used the edge of my finger. Alright, so the next thing is we're going to go ahead and grab our multi-purpose liquid glue and our silicone craft mat. And what I like to use is just a piece of sponge. Now you can cut it into a quarter wedge, but I actually kind of like the half wedge because it gives me a nice flat surface. And we're just going to do just a little pile of glue. Now for those that may not be familiar with the craft mat, this is perfect for this because the glue does not stick to the craft mat. It basically dries and makes a skin that you can just peel off like a sunburn or wash off with soap and water. So this is just perfect. So we're going to flip our piece over and take our sponge and just kind of gently sponge it on flat. And this is really the best way to be sure to get all of those little tiny detail spots. Now if you don't do this technique, I mean, you could do the fine tip glue, it's just going to be very tedious. So this is just way faster. Just be sure to definitely get those sides. Just be gentle with it because you don't want to tear it. Okay, I think that's probably pretty good. Oh, there we go. Just set that off to the side and it will dry. Then we're going to go ahead and take our piece of Whisper White. Now this is cut at 5 by 3 3/4, but I am going to be probably trimming it in a minute, so it's not an exact. So we're just going to line up that edge, which I know may be hard to see because it bent here. Okay. Now we'll want to buckle a little bit, so I recommend just kind of rolling it out and just gently pressing it a little bit at a time. just to make sure that it's nice and flat. You're less likely to have buckled spots. So just a little bit at a time. Just a gentle press. And if you discover that maybe you missed a spot, you can sometimes add a little bit more glue on it, but it should be okay. Go. Right. So there we have our piece. It looks like I have one little spot that didn't get glued as well. I don't know if I can get it under there. Well, that just may be where the sentiment goes, but that's okay. So you can kind of see we're just glued it straight on. The other good thing about doing the sponging glue technique is you don't tend to have the glue spots that you would with like the fine tip glue. All right. So now we have it like this. We're gonna go ahead and color it in, or you can trim it first, either way. So we've got our markers, and so I'm gonna do a little more speed coloring real quick. So this is a really great pattern for these flowers. So we're just doing the flowers in the Highland Heather, and just all the leaves in the mint macaron, with just the little dot in the center. So pretty simple coloring. And there we have it all colored in. So you can see just how lovely and simple that technique is. So we're going to go ahead and trim that down real quick using our Stampin' Trimmer. But if you do prefer to have that little bit of white edge, you could of course leave it on there. Or you can also trim it with your paper snips as well. Yeah, good enough. All right. Right now we're going to go ahead and grab our piece of mint macaron card base. You can see this is just coming together pretty quickly. We've got our piece right there. And actually you can still see a little bit of that white edge. I'm just going to trim it real quick because I know it's going to bother me. Yeah. But you can see you could do this design with just any of our beautiful Stampin' Up! Colors. If you're not a fan of copper, you could definitely do it in gold or silver. Just lots of wonderful options. Oh, I'm cutting off camera. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. We have our piece done. All right, so for our sentiment, I just stamped and embossed just like we did the laser cut. The sentiment, "You are wonderful," because it's so versatile. And then I cut that out with our oval circles, and then did just a slightly bigger oval with the copper foil because it just matches and looks lovely. And then I just had a little bit of a scrap of that copper foil sheet. So you can see you don't really need very much at all. And even if you didn't want to do the copper foil, you could just do the sentiment by itself. But I thought the copper just kind of gave it a little bit more of a pop. So we're going to go ahead and just glue that on top of each other. Quick and simple like. we have that nice edge all the way across. Just like that. All right, and then the same thing, this is just a little scrap. Actually, I think I'm gonna do it like that. Maybe do it up a little higher. So I'm gonna do the sentiment a little higher on this one, but you can see the same idea. And then the little scrap is just gonna be that little bit of that tail end popping up. So kind of a little bit like a belly band almost. So we've got our little strip, we're just gonna lay it down. Just like that, nice and easy. We're just going to go ahead and glue our whole piece. Give just a little bit of that edge all the way around. Just like that. And then for this one, I did a little bit of dimensionals behind, but if you are going to mail it, then you can definitely glue it flat instead. It's just kind of a personal preference thing. There we go. Just here. So really quick, and we are done. Now, of course, you do want to put another piece of Whisper White on the inside to write that sentiment on, unless you're cool with the lighter shade, which you can write on the lighter shades pretty well. So let me show you a couple other quick ideas using these awesome laser paper. So like I said, we did have the extra sheet from when we sponged. So here's a couple quick ideas with that. Just a little simple border and some of our new colors. So just a nice color pop. That out to the side, okay. And then here is that fun laser cut again, but this one is with the gold. I don't know if you guys can see that reflected in the video, hopefully. All right, and then here's another one done pretty much exactly like what we did here, except this was from the bigger sheet, the 12 by 12, and just colored in. And I just really like how that turned out. So pretty. And the last idea I wanted to leave you guys with this fun technique is you can basically do the same thing and heat emboss the entire giant 12 by 12 sheet. So let me show you what that looks like. So here is just one of those giant ones. But if you do this, I would definitely recommend doing section at a time, sponging and heat embossing, as being so large it tends to be a little messy. You can see I did mess up on a few spots there. But this would make a gorgeous scrapbook page, and I'm probably going to turn that into it for my blog. And here's another one. Now this is with the silver embossing powder. You can see just how gorgeous that is. But yet again, same thing. Just sponged through. So here we go. You can see the two different patterns. But beautiful, beautiful background for cards, for just, you know, just about anything. And you can cut out these flowers individually and put them on cards as well. So I hope you guys liked this video and liked this card tutorial. As I said, do check out the links in the comments below for all the direct links to my Stampin' Up! Store. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.